Greetings and welcome everyone to the Angry Chicken Invitational, sponsored by Doghouse Systems. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, and I'm joined, as I usually am for other projects, by William Dills Gregory. Dills, welcome. How you doing today?
I'm great, man. I'm excited to finally cast these games. We've been sitting on them for a while.
Indeed.
And the meta has shifted completely.
And there's been a big patch. There's been a big balance patch since these games were played. But we're
going to see old school novice engineer in these games.
I know. I was going into this. I was thinking about casting these games today, and I was like, I bet the number one thing I'm going to keep noticing is, oh, wow, look at all these novice engineers.
They're everywhere, I bet. Yeah, and I miss those guys, those girls. They were great. Yeah. Now they're not so great anymore.
Yeah,
so.
not so much. So keep that in mind. If you're a new player, if you just got into Hearthstone with the recent beta going open, you're gonna be looking at some of these cards being like, wait a minute, that card doesn't do that. And
that's Pyroblast costs 10. What is this? What is this? Yeah, no, this is old stuff. They recorded these in, I believe, mid to late December.
Yes, so, this is what happens when you decide to try and do a tournament spur of the moment around Christmas. Things rapidly get out of hand. Yes, and you just have to wait until you actually have the free time to cast the games.
And this also brings up another good point. This would be so much easier if there was some sort of a spectator mode in this game. There is not. So bear with us. We have to work with what we got. And that is how all Hearthstone tournaments are now. Until that happens. So
yes, indeed.
You'll notice.
Yeah. Big thanks to your friend Warren, who donated his time to try and clean up the VODs that these players sent in and get them to a state where we could see both hands and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, as we get into it, let's talk about the players and the format. This was an invitational tournament we put together. We invited four of the best players at the time of recording these games. So we have apDrop. Tell us a little bit about apDrop, Dills. You know all the players.
Yeah, so apDrop, he streams. You can find him on Twitch, twitch.tv/apDrop. He plays a lot of Rogue on stream. He really likes the Rogue deck. More of like a tempo Rogue is, I think, his style of play. Very, very quality player. And his stream is really good because he is very interactive with his with his viewers. He's constantly talking. He's so there's the Trump and Crip kind of level of streaming with the 15 to 25,000 viewers.
Just an obscene amount of people watching live.
Yeah, where the stream is, or the chat is basically useless. I mean, the chat is basically there to put pictures of elephants and stuff.
It's a stream of consciousness from about 25,000 people.
Yeah, apDrop's chat is a little more in line with what I prefer, which is actually a chat you can actually say something in it and he will respond. He also is very good about explaining his plays, and when he makes a mistake, he explains why it was a mistake and notices there was a mistake. And so he's just a really quality guy to watch if you want to learn how to play constructed Hearthstone. He plays a lot of tournaments outside of this one, and also has reached legend in both seasons. So very, very good player, and I'm excited to see how he does.
Awesome. Well, we also have Kisstafer.
Yes,
as our second player in this tournament. As a matter of fact, the first game you're going to be seeing here is between apDrop and Kisstafer.
Yeah, that's right. So Kisstafer is another guy who streams and has a lot of tournament results, and originally was kind of the engineer behind a few very popular decks. There was a Kisstafer Warlock and a Kisstafer Shaman deck that both have become pretty popular on the ladders. So he's definitely someone that people look to when they're trying to figure out what they should do with their decks when they want to climb the ladder. Again, another player who's reached legend and won a lot of tournaments. He's done very, very well in a lot of Hearthstone tournaments. So I'm excited to see him play as well, because I actually don't have a lot of experience watching his stream. He streams a little less, so it's harder for me to catch him. But very, very good player, and I'm really, really looking forward to his games.
Nice. The third player we have up is Savages.
Yes.
And
Savages
I feel like
might be the best Hearthstone player there is. Now that's obviously,
a tall order, sir.
that's obviously not something we can determine straight up at any point, probably, because this game is really a shifting game. So you might be the best player right now. You might be the best player in a single tournament. The fact is, though, Savages was number 1 and then number 2 on the ladder in both NA and EU in the first season. And that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
So it's hard to take away the fact that he might be the best player.
Yeah, that is an accolade, indeed.
Yeah. So he also plays a ton. He was in the most recent... He was supposed to be in the first Fight Night, could not make it out to Germany. The Fight Night is the ESGN, very well-produced Hearthstone tournament that they're doing.
Yes.
And he is in Seasons 3 and 4 coming up that we haven't seen yet. But he's part of Team Doggy House. Which is
not to be confused with our sponsor for the day's tournament.
Yeah, Doghouse and Doggy House. By the way, they should really sponsor Doggy House, don't you think? I mean, it just makes sense. Yeah, they are two separate things. Doggy House is a Hearthstone team. It's our, as far as I know, I think it's still Artosis, Nimsh, Savages, Nyx, and who am I missing? I'm missing somebody, I think. Oh well, I'm sorry to that guy. Oh, Ekop. Sorry.
Ekop, yeah.
Ekop. How could I forget that guy? I guess.
Yeah, he's kind of he's a hot player.
He's kind of the leader, I think. Yeah,
just a little bit, bit, considering half of Artosis's decks at the BlizzCon Invitational were Ekop decks.
Yes, yeah. So they're the mastermind behind a lot of decks as a team. I would say Savages might be the best player of that group, and of course, I also just said he might be the best Hearthstone player. Period. So,
yep.
He's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this tournament for sure.
And then finally, our fourth player is Koyuki.
Yes.
Or Koyuki. I say Koyuki. So
I think it's Koyuki, yeah. So Koyuki is another player that was not really on my radar until recently because he engineered a very strong Paladin deck around the time that we did this tournament. And that Paladin deck became just the flavor of the week for a while, a flavor of the month.
Was this that anti-mage Paladin deck that was all about the heals, the lay on hands?
Yeah, and the board clears with things like Equality and Wild Pyromancer and all that stuff.
Yes.
So he's the one who basically engineered this deck. He still plays a lot of Paladin, I think, now. And he also was invited to Fight Night for Seasons 3 and 4. So he went to Germany. He replaced Kriparian in the Fight Night because Kriparian actually moved over from playing to casting for this one.
Okay.
We haven't seen it yet, but when they needed another player, they went ahead and got this guy. So we got a lot of star power in this tournament here, and we're excited that we got some of these players because there's some big names in Hearthstone, and we get to watch them play.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're very excited. There was a prize pool for this tournament as well. Our sponsors, DoghouseSystems.com, provided $200 as the prize pool. The winner gets $100. The runner-up gets $50, and the two other runner-ups get $25 each for participating. So we would like to thank DoghouseSystems.com quite a bit for sponsoring today's episode. They make really good gaming rigs. It's the one thing they do, and they do it very well. And so if you go over to DoghouseSystems.com and you need a new computer, use the code TAC for the Angry Chicken, and you'll get double memory for free, and you'll support this tournament and the show. If you're not familiar with us, my name is Garrett, as I said earlier, and I and Dills host a podcast about Hearthstone called The Angry Chicken, hence the title of this tournament. So I just assume a lot of the people watching this have probably seen the show, but then I'm like, no, this will probably get around.
Probably not. Yeah, because a lot of people are probably here to watch these players, and maybe they've not heard of The Angry Chicken. So yeah, we do it with Jocelyn Moffat as well, and it's every Monday night. We do it live. You can catch us on Twitch, and then it's on iTunes after that. And according to the numbers, it's very popular. So yes, you guys should check it out.
It's been doing pretty darn well. So we're quite proud of our little baby that hatched into a quite ill-tempered chicken.
What came first, the angry egg or the angry chicken? I don't know.
well, we never will. So
that's true.
As I mentioned before, our first game, our first set of matches is between apDrop and Kisstafer. So let's kick it off by looking at their decks. Let's take a look at apDrop's first. As you can see here, we've got a Druid, a Mage, a Control Lock, and a Rogue.
Which deck is he playing in the first game?
The first game we're going to be looking at, apDrop will be playing a Warlock.
Okay. So the Warlock is the Control Giants version of Warlock,
which is still quite popular.
It is. It is. This deck will be very popular. It's a little tough to play in the current meta because of the extremely aggressive hunters, paladins, and warriors. And there was a time when this was anti-warlock aggro, anti-aggro, because of the fact that you could put out these giants pretty quickly, taunt them up, and then those guys couldn't get through. However, it was always weak against mage because mage didn't care about taunt. Mage just pyro to your face. So while this deck is incredibly powerful, it also has some drawbacks in the fact that you damage yourself quite a bit throughout the course of the game, so you can get your Molten Giants out, so you can life tap and get your cards up to play the Mountain Giants, things like that. But what this deck relies on is then being able to pop Lord Jaraxxus towards the end of the game and heal yourself back up to 15
right, exactly.
with massive board control. So
yeah, I finally broke down this week and crafted myself a Jaraxxus, and I gotta say, damn, does that change the way you play a warlock? Yeah. Like, it just completely shifts it to this new kind of, well, I can tap to my heart's content because I can just set myself back to 15.
You know that come turn 9, the important thing is just to have board control. If you have control of the board at turn 9 and you can play Jaraxxus, then basically the game is over. You cannot lose at that point. Jaraxxus is just so powerful with the weapon and with the 2-mana 6/6s that you can continually summon every turn afterwards. The game usually ends pretty quickly at that point.
Right.
This deck also runs a lot of board clears in the 2 Hellfires and the Shadow Flames. And it also runs some healing as well. So it's got the Earthring Farseers. And then you've got the Owls and the Ancient Watchers and the Sun Fury Protectors and other things like that to try to get the early board control. So the idea is basically, if I have an Ancient Watcher in my hand early, I can play that. Then I can follow that up with either an Owl or a Sun Fury Protector, which either will taunt it up or silence it so it can then attack. And then I can actually maintain board control until I get, my Mountain Giants, my Molten Giants, my Twilight Drakes, those types of cards out on the board. Curious thing in here, though, is this deck is one of the only ones in the meta that we're using for this tournament that doesn't run Sylvanas. Most decks that you will see in this tournament, I'm sure, all run Sylvanas. This is
every
like the
other deck apDrop brought to this tournament has Sylvanas in it. For example, his Druid, his Mage, and his Rogue all have it. Sylvanas, just before the most recent patch, was only 5 mana for 5 attack, 5 health, and of course her famous Death Rattle, where she steals one of your opponent's minions at random. Just an insane card that's very, very logical and obvious reason why she is now 6 mana as opposed to 5. So, as you can also see, and I'm sure you're noticing, every player has brought 4 decks. That's because the format of this tournament is deck elimination, and it is a best of 7. So, first player to 4 wins. Every game, whoever is the winner has to keep the deck they were using, while the loser has to change to a different deck.
Yes. So this is similar to the Blizzard tournament, as well as King of the Hill, which is another tournament that's done by Artosis and Doa, and you can find all of those, but they do a similar format. What we kind of have here is like a double King of the Hill. Like, you got to win 2 King of the Hill matches in a row. So yeah, basically if you win, keep your deck. If you lose, deck gone, pick a new deck, try to counter that original deck. But yeah, so this is a control lock. You still see this deck today. It's a very, very popular deck. And it's very powerful when everything works out. But I'll point this out before the game starts. Generally what you're going to see is you're going to see turn 2 life tap, turn 3 life tap, turn 4 Mountain Giant. That is like the standard opener for this deck.
Indeed. So let's take a look at Kisstafer's deck, and in game 1 he will be playing his Priest deck. He did not get very creative with his deck names here, so we're not going to bother.
Deck names are all Kiss, Star, Kiss.
Yeah.
All right,
Kiss. So his Priest deck is honest. This is definitely a symptom of when this was played. You're not going to see a lot of Priests in the current meta, but back in the day,
yeah, you weren't seeing a lot of them at this time either, though. This is interesting.
Point. So, taking a look at this, it looking like it is. Well, there you go. Your novice engineers right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a strange deck.
It is.
It seems to me.
It seems to me like a control anti-aggro type of deck. And the curious thing to me is what is the actual win condition in this deck? That's the hard thing for me to determine. I'm looking at it, I'm seeing a lot of control elements. You can definitely clear the board. You got things like the Wild Pyromancer that you can pair with all sorts of stuff. I mean, you can pair the Wild Pyromancer with a Holy Smite and basically have like a mini swipe. You can pair the Wild Pyromancer with Power Word Shield, and you can buff one of your guys while you also do 1 damage to the entire, enemy's board. You got Aconite Soul Priest and Circle of Healing, which is basically a 4 mana, albeit 2 card Flame Strike that also affects your side of the board. It's got the Holy Nova, only running 1. And then it's got things like Baron Geddon, like you said, which is basically an anti-aggro card. What it does is it's a 7/5 that hits the board, and then it deals 2 damage to the entire everything, heroes included, at the end of your turn. So it's an interesting card. You see it in some control and anti-aggro, but it's not a very popular legendary. As well as Deathwing, which we see in another of Kisstafer's decks, which is not a very popular card in Constructed.
Because it chucks your whole hand just out the window. Yeah,
it's a table flip. Basically what this card is screw this game, here, beat this. That's what it is. And if they can beat it, you have lost the game.
Yes.
So it is the emergency button, if you will.
Exactly. That's like your Hail Mary pass. You just please work.
Which I guess makes sense in this type of deck, because I gotta say, even with some of the powerful board clearing that he has, it is still a priest, and priests tend to struggle against a lot of decks because of how slow their openers are. And which again, you know what I'm noticing here? He has no Northshire clerics in this deck.
Nope.
So he doesn't have a turn 1 minion to play ever,
right.
Which is a little strange. So we'll see how. I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to just make it to the late game and make it to cards like Cairn Bloodhoof and Black Knight and Baron Geddon and mind control your big stuff. And basically it's just to kind of survive the early game, get to the late game, and then hopefully just outlast its opponent. I don't know. I would love to see a priest that works, so I'm hoping it works, honestly.
Yeah, indeed. So I guess without further ado, you want to kick this thing off, Dills?
Yeah, let's go into the first game, man.
Right, let's go into first game, which is apDrop as a Warlock versus Kisstafer as a Priest. Let's roll this.
Anduin versus Gul'dan.
Okay, so we got Kisstafer on the bottom, and apDrop on the top. But this will switch back and forth.
Yeah, you'll notice that. And like right now, you'll notice that it's swapped for the mulligan.
Yeah.
So let's see. That was Kisstafer.
That was apDrop.
So
we just mulliganed everything but the Mountain Giant.
Everything but the Mountain Giant. Yes.
Yeah. And the point of that is, you would think, oh my god, I don't want this high mana card in my hand. But the point of that is actually the card you want as an opener as a control warlock, because you tap. There it is. You're going to tap again, and then that Mountain Giant will only cost 4 mana.
Right, which is that's just insane.
It is. There's the old school Novice Engineer hitting the board.
Yeah, it used to be a 1/2, it just made it pretty much a required card.
Yeah.
Is that extra?
Now, I'm looking at Kisstafer's hand here, and I'm not seeing anything that's going to be able to deal with this Mountain Giant when it hits the board.
No, I'm not either.
Yeah.
It's he's not going to be a happy man.
No.
When it happens. So he's going to coin.
I guess he's going to coin out an Aconite Soul Priest here, I would think, just to be ready for something. Yeah.
No, at least be able to. So he'll be able to deal. Let's see, 2, 5,
he'll be able to deal 6 damage on the next turn. Well, he's also got. He will be able to deal with this giant, but it's going to take basically everything he has.
Right. So we've got an 8/8 on the board against a 3/5 and a 1/2, and a hero power that does 2 damage.
Well, he's got he's got the smite. He can also use his hero ability to deal 2 damage, and it looks like he's going to try to draw first and see what he gets, because so maybe he gets something better. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Wild Pyro.
Wild Pyromancer.
So he can Wild Pyro, and well, see again. I don't know if this is. I don't know exactly what. Okay, so he's going to ignore the giant. He's just going to go straight for your face. All right. That's one way to deal with it, I guess.
Unfortunately, he's got heals on board with the Earthen Ring Farseer. He also has Jaraxxus in his hand, so if he goes below 15, it doesn't matter, he can heal himself back up to 15.
Yeah. And apDrop's just going to go ahead and swing to the face for 8 because why not? I've got the 8/8 on board. Deal with it, you know?
Exactly. It's looking a little scary for Kisstafer right now, and any spell he uses is going to set off that Pyromancer, dealing 1 damage to everything.
Yes. Which is actually okay because it will kill the owl. However, I feel like... Okay, so another thing too is Shadow Madness will also deal 1 damage to the entire board. So what he can do here is he can Shadow Madness the 3/3, deal 1 damage to the entire board, getting the Mountain Giant to 7. And then he can go ahead and swing in with his own Pyromancer and this... There you go. Okay, and Novice Engineer. So that's what he does.
Yeah, not a terrible play.
No. Clears the board, leaves him with a 3/4. It's a silenced 3/4 now, so it's actually not going to...
So he can heal himself up now.
Yeah,
his minions.
yeah. So there's no longer an actual Aconite Soul Priest. It is now
the 2 targeted
silenced 3/4.
4/8 Twilight Drake. That's going to be hard to deal with because now he doesn't have the 2 targeted damage with his hero power.
True.
Well, he has another Roshanai Soul Priest in his hand that he could drop. And then
it also has 4 attack, which is, again, the magical number against priests. So
right. So the Shadow Word Death and Shadow Word Pain isn't going to do anything.
No. Now, he could just ignore these guys. You could definitely ignore the Ancient Watcher. You know it will get taunted up or silenced very soon. But at least for now, you can ignore it, and you might just drop Cairn.
Looking at apDrop's hand, too, he actually doesn't have anything that can make that Ancient Watcher helpful at the moment. Not that Kisstafer knows that.
Well, he's got the Owl, so he can silence it.
Oh, that's a good point. I'm sorry, I missed that entirely. This is a very, very good point.
Yeah. So this is actually kind of a rough situation for Kisstafer. You know, none of his cards that he has will... I mean, okay, so there's one option where he could throw out the Aconite Soul Priest, Circle of Healing, and do a whole bunch of damage to the whole thing, but it's still not quite enough.
Right.
He has to do that and Holy Smite, which means he's using 3 cards to deal with just one of the cards on the board, because then they'd still have the Ancient Watcher as a 4/1. So, yeah, this is not a good situation. I think what I'd probably do is either draw or go for Cairn. I was going to draw.
That's what he's doing. He could draw again with the Novice Engineer, which looks like that's what he's going to do. Just thinking about it.
So the problem with these plays, when you realize you don't have an answer to something and you just start drawing, is you're spending your mana crystals to do this. Meaning if you do draw an answer, you may not be able to use said answer. So.
Right, he's just going to go straight to apDrop's face.
I think that was, at that point, that was the only play he had left. It's just kind of a bummer for him. He would have liked to have had a way to deal with the situation. Unfortunately, that to do so would have basically cost him half of his hand.
Yeah.
And that's not a good place to be.
My eyes.
apDrop's going to go ahead and taunt up that Watcher and the Twilight Drake and heal himself all in one turn.
That Defender is just a killer play right now.
Now he's going to decide whether to kill something or to go straight for the face. I think he's going to kill the Wolf Rider here.
He's so ahead of his board state, there's really no reason to get greedy.
I agree. I think at this point it's time to make sure that you maintain board control, because he also has another Twilight Drake in his hand. He's got Draxus. He's got Siphon Soul to kill any major targets. He's just looking really good right now. Really, really strong.
Yeah, that Ancient Watcher with that body of 6 is going to be hard to deal with. Of course, if he had a Shadow Word Death, he could just get rid of it entirely, but he doesn't.
But we're going to see the Aconite Soul Priest Circle of Healing play right here. He's going to pop that Aconite Soul Priest down. Circle of Healing is going to clear the entire board, and then he can Holy Smite the remaining.
It's not going to kill the Twilight Drake.
Yeah, but he's got a Holy Smite in his hand as well.
Oh, that's right.
And he can also use his hero ability. So he's got 2 ways to kill the, So he clears the entire board, which is a fantastic play.
And yeah, it was definitely the smarter move to use the hero power there, because if the Soul Priest dies next turn, which could very likely happen, he still gets a 2 damage from Holy Smite for another turn.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And he had plenty of mana to do so, so that was the correct play. And that's the powerful Aconite Soul Priest Circle of Healing combo there that we just saw, which you don't see very often.
Yeah, he has another Mountain Giant, which he could play.
Yeah, but I think he's going to tap first, because if you tap, it's still playable, because you gain a card. And there you go. Yeah, so he taps first, and it's still playable at 6 mana. So
You might see a turn 9 Draxus.
You might. You see, Draxus won't come out on turn 9 unless he has board control. And, okay, there you go. Cairn is a good play here because of the fact that it doesn't die. well, it does die, but it comes back to life. So
Right.
basically,
It
in
just
essence, it
drops
can
another-
deal with the Mountain Giant by killing it, with 2 attacks.
Right. It just replaces itself with another 4/5.
Now, the interesting thing, though, is what does he do with the remaining 2 mana here? And I believe he's probably just going to hit it. Okay, so he's going to do that, and then he's probably just going to hit the face for 3 here.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do. And I was checking how many cards his enemy has in his hand or in his deck.
Feel my pain.
It's a tough place to be in.
Yeah, I mean, right now you know what's coming from this Warlock, and you know it's a lot of beef. Here comes the beef. So you've got to make sure that you maintain some semblance of board control. This is not a bad place to play Jiraxis. The problem here is that you're going to lose 1 health.
You face Jiraxis.
Right, but you're still going to deal 8 damage to your opponent's face.
Well, he's going to deal 11 with the weapon that he draws as well. So,
oh, right, exactly.
Yeah. So he's basically brought his opponent into lethal range. Just that turn right there.
Right, and he's going to have to attack. He's going to have to attack the Mountain Giant with Karen, which is going to, even though it replaces itself with a 4/5, the 4/5 is not going to be able to swing the same turn. So he's still totally controlling the tempo of this game.
Well, so now he can kill this Mountain Giant with Karen, drop. Ooh. So he's going to go ahead and do it first. He's going to try to race him, looks like. Interesting. Okay. I probably would have killed the Mountain Giant first. And then taunted up the second Cairn so that the whatever got played at that point could not go through those 2 taunts. But he's going to be more aggressive here and take a gamble.
Right, and with what apDrop has on the board, which is just a 3-attack weapon and an 8-attack Mountain Giant that will die to either of his taunters, it's not necessarily a bad call.
Yeah, however, what he doesn't realize is that there's an Owl and there's a Siphon Soul in apDrop's hand.
Exactly.
So he can go ahead and kill off the Cairn, swing through for 11. It's still not going to be enough, though, so... Oh, well, you know what? He can actually... I think he has lethal here.
Yep, with the Hellfire.
You can Shadow Flame the 6/6, which kills everything, swing through, and then Hellfire. So there you go.
Yep.
Very good play there from apDrop. He found a lethal there that was a little tricky to find, but Jiraxis got him the 6/6 that he could cheaply Shadow Flame.
Yeah, absolutely. Great play there by them. All right, so that was a pretty solid game 1, especially considering it was Kisstafer's Priest deck, quite unorthodox.
Yes, and it was actually closer. It was a really close game, actually. I was going to say closer than it looked, but it looked close.
Right.
At the end there, Kisstafer loaded the board with lethal, and 2 taunt minions, both with death rattles, is pretty rough. Both buffed with Defender of Argus, but the fact is, Jiraxis is so good because that 2-mana 6/6, that is the best Shadow Flame target you could ask for.
You really can't. You can't beat that.
No.
But...
So it was a fantastic play by apDrop to recognize the lethal. That's probably a lethal a lot of players might miss. It's obvious to some to very good players, but newer players would easily miss the fact that I can summon a 2/2, Shadow Flame it, attack with my giant, attack with my weapon, then Hellfire to clear, to finish my opponent off.
Right.
So there's a lot of steps in that lethal, and apDrop is a great player, and he recognized it pretty quickly. So
yeah, if you're not aware of how easy it is to miss lethal, just go watch the BlizzCon finals.
Sure, yeah.
Go watch
actually, if
or
you
not the
go
finals,
watch
the
Rekful's stream, it's still a running joke at this point.
Yeah.
I miss lethal constantly. It's just it's just one of those things, and it's one of the biggest mistakes you can make in Hearthstone, because if you have that turn where you can finish your opponent off and you don't, oftentimes you are the one who dies on the next turn.
That's why it's funny. As much as I don't like to stream when I play, it's a great learning tool, because even if you have 5 people watching you, one of those 5 people are going to call you out on the mistakes you make, and it's a good learning tool. So
either that, or they're all going to say you have lethal when you clearly don't, which is the other thing that happens in Twitch
second
chat.
guessing yourself, and you only have 2 minutes to make a turn, and there goes that. But
yeah.
Anyway, so apDrop securing the first win in this tournament. The first player, of course, to 4 wins moves on to the finals. So we'll see if it's apDrop or Kisstafer. Game 2, Kisstafer